At this time, I would like to introduce you to our moderator, Bismarck Myrick. Bismarck is the Director of the Office of Equal Employment Opportunity and Diversity here at USPTO, and he'll be leading today's panel, Building Your Network for Success. At this time, I would like to turn the panel over to Bismarck, who can start the introductions, and as we wait for our final caller to call in for the panel, he'll go ahead and give us an idea of the panel and introduce himself to the audience. Bismarck?
So good afternoon. It's really a delight for me to be a part of such a prestigious panel. We have a number of really outstanding panelists geared up for a conversation about networking, which I believe is going to be very important for inventors moving products into commercialization. At this time, I'd like to ask the panelists to just introduce themselves. Miguel, is it okay to start with you?
Sounds like a plan. Very good. So good afternoon. My name is Miguel Alemany. I am a chemical engineer, graduated from the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez West. I have worked for 40 years and retired as Vice President of R&D from Procter & Gamble, consumer goods giant. When I was at P&G, I became an inventor, and I have a few patents on my name. Some of them include Ultra Pampers, an invention that eliminated diaper rash and allowed babies to sleep throughout the night without waking up because of discomfort. High performance stretch diapers and a couple more. And interesting, I have many more inventions that are practiced as trade secrets because they're not necessarily enforceable as patents, which is another aspect of the whole area. Currently, I'm the founder and CEO of Innomatrix Llc. It's an innovation consulting company in the perfume and consumer goods industries. So I work with perfume companies and consumer goods to help them invent new products or develop new perfumes and things like that. And finally, I have been for a few years the chair of the board of directors at the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. It's the largest Hispanic STEM organization in the nation, and having one of the biggest conventions ever. And this organization is on fire. And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but it's one of my most proud things in my life. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you. Nina, are you on the line?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Good afternoon.
We can hear you. Good afternoon, Nina.
Great.
Would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. So I'm Nina Archie. I'm the Diversity and Tech Policy Advisor for the Commercializer. My background is I'm a former patent examiner. So I have experience as a patent examiner. I'm working on different patent applications. I then moved to private sector where I had an opportunity to work and focus actually with entrepreneurs as well as pro se applicants. And then I moved into working with National Institute of Health with their intellectual property office, and they focused on commercialization of their technologies. And then I also had an opportunity to actually work on Capitol Hill. I had an experience there as well, focusing on intellectual property and technology policy issues. And so now I'm here as Diversity, Tech, and Policy Advisor.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.
Harry, would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hey everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you everyone for making this happen and for inviting me to this great event. My name is Harry Alford. I am a co-founder of Humble Ventures. We are a venture development firm that drives innovation forward through collaboration and partnership with investors, startups, and established enterprises. We have a focus on diverse entrepreneurs and those building solutions for diverse audiences. And so I believe that my background and also the work we do at Humble really could add some value to the conversation today around networking and how we implement that in our business. So looking forward to today.
Thanks, Harry. Harry, let's start with you. I've heard, my background is mainly in the area of civil rights and employment, but I hear the term accelerator. Can you describe what that term means and why it's important to inventors? So
an accelerator is a fixed term 12-week cohort. Think of it as like a startup school for startups to receive curriculum, advice, mentorship, and access to capital within a fixed time frame. And an accelerator is one of the offerings that we do for our enterprise partners. We recruit and select startups based around a strategic theme, a challenge, or a problem that an enterprise partner would like to sponsor and be close to gain innovative insights. And so we design these, we facilitate them, and then we also put some key metrics attached to it. So that's how we measure success. So revenue generated, customers acquired, partnerships formed within that time frame. And so an accelerator is a good alternative for not only funding, but also just mentorship and access to human and social capital for startups. And so some accelerators have an expertise in like hardware. And so if you have an idea or you have some IP and some patents that you actually want some support and partnerships, or maybe find some co-founders to help actually build this technology, there are some specified accelerators that can help you do that.
Nina, so I know that there is great importance placed on networking, but I'm an engineer, and I had a great idea. I've developed this great idea, and I don't know what to do with it. And I don't know about the importance of or how to start to socialize my idea so that I could form the kinds of networks that could lead to commercialization of my idea. Could you talk a little bit about, in particular, Black women and what they face as they try to bring their ideas to the marketplace?
So one of the things I would say, particularly with Black women or people of color, is that the issue really sometimes is around the access and resources in order to, of course, commercialize your technology. And so currently at the Commercializer, we actually consult a lot with small business innovators, particularly Black women as well, that are having some of those issues. And so one of the things that we typically would recommend to them is actually focusing not just on, their manufacturers, but actually, joining groups that are focusing on commercializing of technologies and expand your network into areas that you may not have necessarily thought about. Particularly if you're trying to bring something from lab to market, you may actually focus a lot on looking at different agencies that have federal labs that may actually want to partner with you in order to actually get your product launched. So I think that a lot of times some of the issues are, centered around, of course, where do I find these resources? How do I get the right pitch together? What group may be able to, support me in this particular, this particular system in order to, help my product along the way, but also focusing on like what other federal government resources out there. I know at the Commercializer, we are focusing a lot on trying to actually put initiatives together where we can get a Sisters in SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research program together now in order to gauge more diversity from underrepresented groups.
Thanks. So, Miguel, you were part of a large enterprise and had a very storied career over at Procter & Gamble. Many new engineers and scientists who find themselves in large organizations struggle with fitting in and excelling. I can't think of a better person to kind of give us advice about working in large organizations, how to fit in, and how to thrive in those environments. Could you talk a little bit about your story and advice that you give to young engineers and scientists?
Yes, happy to. In fact, I was the first Hispanic that P&G ever recruited in R&D in Cincinnati. And for the first 5 years of my career, they had no idea what to do with me. And I had great difficulty fitting in. I didn't have any issue other than my cultural style was completely different than the corporate culture style. And I didn't recognize that I wasn't fitting in until one day they came and talked to me about leaving the company. And they were very clear that I was not a good fit. And I kept thinking, why am I not a good fit? I'm doing everything you guys tell me to do. And it took me a while to figure this out. And you know, this is a 10 years of my first 10 years of my career, so that I'm summarizing. But I will bring it down to the following. As you get into a corporation, you need to understand what is it that this corporation wants of you. It is not what you think you want to give them. It is what they think they want of you. And then realize whether those two match or not. If they want you to deliver something and that's not what you want to do, leave and go to a different place where you actually are okay. Because chances are you're not going to change that corporation. The 160,000 of them, there's one of you. The chances are. Now, some people may, but for the most part, they don't. On the other hand, if you have a good match between what that corporation wants of you and what you want to provide that corporation, it is perfect. But then you got to figure out how it works. This is what I call it. You got to figure out the secret handshake. And if you come from a different culture, if you come from a different background, if you're a minority in any way, it used to be, you know, when I started, women were quite marginalized in corporate America. At P&G, at least today, is 50-50 at almost every level. So it's changed. But I do remember those years. If you're Hispanic, if you're Black, if you're a foreigner, I mean, it was different. It was difficult to fit in. But once you realize that what you're trying to figure out is not how to do your job, but how to do it in a way that the company recognizes it, what I call, again, the secret handshake, and you fit in, then you bloom. My advice to people is always don't fight the system, just adapt and grow. Once you get to a certain level, when I get to a certain level, I started changing the system. But as a new hire, you're not going to change the system. Right? It's very difficult to do. Then once you get to a position of power in the company, then you start opening the eyes of everybody else. You know, there are two kinds of leadership styles. There is Attila the Hun, jump on the horse, rally the troop, and drive forward. And there is Joe the shepherd. You know, gather everyone together, convince them, make them want to do it, and go. And both work. Now, Hispanics are more the shepherd. Anglos are more the Attila the Hun. So those leadership styles conflict. But if you teach people that they're both equally good, equally effective, it works. So long story short, get in, figure out whether you match with the company's requirements or not. What they want of you is what you want to give them. And if they do, learn how to deliver the things in the way the company's expecting them until you get to a position of power, and then help them see other points of view. It works. Difficult, but it works.
Thanks, Miguel. Harry, so I know you hear a lot of pitches, and people are coming to you wanting your advice on their new idea. Could you talk to me about the value of just having a few minutes of someone's time and how they might explain their concept or idea in that short amount of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to touch on a little bit what Miguel was saying, I completely 100% agree with what you're saying. And one of the things we do is, so our business model is we don't have a traditional fund. We are, our revenue comes from the enterprise partners. So like the big pharmas, the health systems, the established enterprises. And what they are looking for is new innovative ways of thinking. And one way to do that is to bring in startups for them to figure out how to pilot, acquire, or invest or partner with those startups that have this innovative technology. And so one of our unfair advantages is that we partnered in 2015 with Ogilvy and WPP to provide innovation consulting to the Fortune 100 clients. And so we lead with innovation, but then we follow with diversity to try to show that inclusion is inextricably linked to innovation. Because if you're trying to tap underserved communities or new audiences, the country's going to be majority minority by 2040, but also the highest consumers of technology, tech trends, and also the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs are Black and brown entrepreneurs. So just wanted to touch on that. And to convey what you're doing in a short amount of time, I think it's always best to first share your vision. A lot of times people just go ahead and just throw the solution out there, but they don't really have the buy-in yet. You haven't really hooked them. And a lot of that's on the vision and filling in those gaps and spaces, what they might be missing. And then to talk about the problem, make sure it's a problem worth solving and something that has actually like a big pain point and that people can identify with. And usually the way you do that is that you vision, problem, and then your solution. And then if you have more time, you follow up by going through your demo, your market opportunity, your competitive landscape, your roadmap, and then maybe have it ask. But that, I think, always lead with the problem. Follow the problem, share that with someone else, and that's a good way to get someone's attention, whether they are a mentor, an investor, a partner, or a customer.
Mina, can you talk a little bit about financing, finding partners to help develop ideas?
Yes. So one of the things that I know that typically people of color as well as Black women may not know about is when you actually have a particular product that you're interested in trying to commercialize, you can either, go through financing, again, through, crowdfunding. A lot of people of color go through bootstrapping, which is like pretty much doing it on their own. But I think as time has gone by, there have been a lot of different programs that have focused on, financing, your technology. And one of the things that, we want to do at the Commercializer is always try to provide those resources to them, let them know about what those programs are, as well as there's sometimes a lot of paperwork that is involved in, actually trying to get a partnership, going. Particularly again with trying to move something in collaboration with a federal lab. I know my experience working at NIH, one of the things that they tried to do with commercializing their technology is finding pretty much people from private sector or even from another agency or university for that matter to actually collaborate and to propel that innovation forward. So the same thing can be done on the outside, meaning like it can be done in private sector as well, where there could be an independent inventor or small business innovator that definitely can look into trying to again expand their networks in order to find those partnerships.
Thank you. Miguel, you worked at a big enterprise, and I don't know much about your current efforts. Could you talk a little bit about what you're focused on now?
Sure, would love to. Let me add one other point to my previous questions that I forgot very briefly. Because a large enterprise communication is critical and networking is critical. It's something that you guys have touched. But if you are a creative inventor, I got great news for you. You can see connections where people don't. You can see two unrelated things and connect them and create an invention. It's amazing what you can do. I have bad news for you. Your managers won't understand you. The corporation won't understand you. You're going to show up saying, look, I just invented this, do that. And they're going to say, get out of my office. I don't know what the hell that is. That unfortunately is the plight of the inventor, more so in a large corporation. So one of the skills that you have to develop early on if you're an inventor is how to communicate your complex invention in plain language to business people. They're not necessarily stupid. They probably are bright. They might be brighter than you. They just don't think that way. So it's difficult for them to see it. So that is very critical. Now, in my current job, this is a one-man job right now, one-man company is myself. Because I spent 40 years developing consumer goods products, and I have inventions, and I've actually changed the market in many ways. I can go and work with companies who are trying to bring new products to the market and help them innovate the product, help them make the product better. Same thing in the perfume industry. The perfume industry for many years have been doing the same thing the same way. Mix a couple of chemicals. If it smells. And when I was at my previous job at P&G, I brought innovation to that area that is not necessarily just a scent. Secondary benefits. There are many secondaries. Sense is a primordial sense. It goes to the lizard brain. It's one of the first things that we develop. And it has physiological impact on the person. So scent can make you feel better, can make you work better, can make you remember better, can make you more aware, can make you lethargic also, can make you sleep better. So I now help companies develop scent that will bring a secondary benefit to the product. It is very interesting. And out of that, patents will probably come up, but by definition, they will belong to the client I'm working with, which is the other thing. But it is interesting because I think of myself as a business manager because I've managed organizations most of my career. But deep down, I'm a little kid inventor. And what I really like to do is invent new things. And in this company that I now have, I do this every day. The one difference that I tell you is amazing from working at P&G is at P&G, I had a battery of people to help me get something to the patent office. As a one-person company, I have to do it all myself, and that is a daunting job. I mean, there is a reason why it's not easy because we want to make sure that we patent things that are worthy patents. But at the same time, it's a complex process that we need to go as inventors. So it's a great job right now, and I love it every second.
So, Harry, what's hot right now? I have two small kids, young kids, not small anymore, but younger kids, and I'm always asking them what's cool, like what's the next thing, and because I don't want to be left behind. So what are people talking about? Where is the innovation? Where's the creativity and excitement from your purview?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different areas, like, especially on the backdrop of COVID, industries have been accelerated 10 years into the future in just like months, in a matter of months. I think a lot of our business is in health and wellness, and we've gained a really good understanding of that. And so seeing telemedicine, telehealth, and the direct-to-consumer, how that is really, how COVID's impacted that space. And so we did a pop-up, which is just like a virtual event where we have a panel discussion and networking. And we had the co-founder of HIMS, which is a direct-to-consumer health like subscription box for men and women. And we also had a director of innovation for Nike. And we talked about how they are like trying to understand the new consumer behavior and habits. And so that's very interesting to us, just the direct-to-consumer and how the brick and mortars, how they're transitioning to online from being, a mom and pop physical store. Another area for us is connection. And so we think people are more isolated right now because of COVID, and whether they're out in the rural area or they're in an apartment in a big urban city like I live in DC. But there's a lost connection and touch and warmth. And so one thing that we look at is virtual reality. For instance, like Oculus and all those different types of apps on there. I have an Oculus Quest. I put it on for a workout. The app is called Supernatural, and I'm never getting a gym membership again. It is phenomenal, and it really shows the excess capacity of our own homes. What else could I turn my home into? And like, what else? How can I turn this into a full-on gym? But also the Oculus also has a meditation. So I can just sit down 10 minutes. And so it solves a lot of things. So I would say telehealth and connection through applications like virtual reality. I think those are two areas that we're really looking at.
Thanks, Harry. Nina, you have had one diverse career. You've seen things from the patent examining perspective.
Yes.
You've also been around all of the excitement of new ideas with innovators. You've been on the Hill. You have just such a diverse background. What is that background? What are the lessons that you've learned from that background about the innovation ecosphere?
So one of the things that I have learned as starting off with being a patent examiner is, first you're looking at things from a perspective of a scientist or a technologist. And also you're looking at things from a regulatory side. So, working with a regulatory agency and you're trying to further patent prosecution, you're really looking at things from the perspective of, basically how can you move this application forward, as well as follow patent policy within the USPTO. And then moving on into, again, moving to another agency where they have another, different structure in regards to, how do they, handle their patent portfolio, as well as how do they, facilitate technology, and how do they collaborate with people in the public sector, as well as the organizational structure of the intellectual property for intellectual property office. Then you're doing a lot more of a perspective of looking at things from the scientist standpoint, because you're advocating for the scientists, essentially, as well as, looking into, again, how do I market this? What are the, what other uses can this technology be used for in order to find, key and unique partnerships? And then I would say, lastly, working on the Hill gave me definitely a completely different perspective, because I actually talked to a lot of constituents who were entrepreneurs. And basically, I would talk to them about some of the, issues they may be having in regards to, something they were advocating on for, a small business innovator, and how that may impact, something that was, being held within the Supreme Court, or a piece of legislation that they may be trying to move forward through a particular caucus. And so with all of my diverse I would say with my diverse network and career, one of the major things I have taken away is to now have pretty much have a lens, or look through a lens of all of those different roles, through the scientist technologist role, through playing a collaborative role where you're advocating for the scientists and you're also trying to find key partnerships, as well as then looking at it from an advocacy role, as well as looking at policies that are in place that may need to be implemented, or looking at things from how do we create new legislation. And so one of the things I wanted to say about that is, when you have a diverse network, you're able to look at things from, again, different perspectives. And for a, inventor and a small business owner, one of the things that I feel like they should be looking at is, how do I, look at my technology, as well as expand my diverse network by what other uses can this technology be used for? What other, ecosystems can this technology, tap into in order to, like you say, move my, technology forward from, lab to market, or, from, your garage, into, a particular store, in order for it to be commercially viable product.
Wow, thank you very much for that. Nina, let's stay with you for a second. One thing that I have realized is that when a lot of people think about African-American minorities, women, when they think about them as inventors, this image of someone who's tinkering in their garage, or someone who is in the kitchen and comes up with something, finds a need. But no matter where you kind of develop your concept, it is highly likely that you're going to need to develop a strategic partnership.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about how people develop those strategic partnerships for the benefit of growing their idea?
So one of the first things I would say, and I want to piggyback on something Miguel said, is, when you are inventors, have a unique ability to, look at their technology, as well as, maybe have a pitch that, your particular manager may not necessarily, be thinking about. And so I think as an inventor, small business owner, one of the biggest things that they, that they can do is actually, again, really, really focus on their technology and how to expand it into markets they may not have ever thought about. And then when they do that, again, that will help with their market research. That will help with, basically forming those strategic partnerships that you're speaking of.
Thanks, Nina. So, Miguel, it's so important to have a diverse network, but it's also so comforting to have a network of people like you. And I can't think of an organization that does a better job of that than the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Can you talk about how you first became acquainted with the organization, and talk about the organization today and your work with SHEP?
All right, cool. I actually was asked by P&G to sit on the advisory board of SHEP. When I grew up in UPR 1973 to 1979, SHEP either did not exist because it was founded in 1974, or for many years was a very small organization in Los Angeles, covering just basically that area. By the time I was at work, it had started to grow. So P&G asked me 22 years ago to sit on an advisory board, and I was blown away by the mission of this organization. So this organization's reason to be is to showcase science, engineering, technology, and math, a big focus on engineering, but science, engineering, math, to high school students or younger, to get them interested into STEM. Because in my opinion, in the next 50 years, we're going to have a major crisis in this country because we're going to have millions of general managers and nothing to manage because we're not going to have engineers and scientists to invent new products and new technologies. So we got to get more people in STEM. So this is not necessarily a Hispanic issue. This is a generic issue. But Hispanics are underrepresented. So we do that. Then we help them get into college. We provide financial support. While they're in college, we help them with support, family support. We get activities. It's like a club. We do counseling. We do mentorship just to make sure they stay and they graduate. And when they graduate, we help them find a job in industry, academia, or government, so that they are successful. And now we're even partnering with other societies, other organizations, to help them once they're at work in corporations and places, grow up the management ladder, because we want them to go, our motto is to go as far as their capabilities allow, to not be held back because they're Hispanic or because they're STEM or anything like that. And one thing that I tell people every time I have a class, every time I have a chance to talk to the students or the members, we have 13,000 right now, on our way to 14,000. I always tell them to especially if they're in a room, there is a group of them, to look around. And I say, you need to meet as many people as you can at this activity, because you don't realize this, but you are sitting with the people who are going to be running the country in 20 years. These are the engineers and the scientists that are going to graduate, and they're going to become the directors, the vice presidents, and the CEOs of corporations around America. If you get a relationship with them now, 15 years from now, when you're in a pickle and you need help from another industry, you know who to call. You create, your network is going to last you for a lifetime. And interesting enough, I emphasize SHEP a lot, and SHEP is doing, our growth has been exponential, and we're doing very good. But we're not alone. There's NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. There is SWE, Society of Wood Engineers. There's SACE, the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers. So there is a group for anyone. And if you're not a minority, you can join the ASME, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, or AICHE, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. So there are organizations, and if you're an inventor, if you're an engineer, if you're a technologist, if you're a scientist, by all means join one. Man, join both. If you're Hispanic female, join both. If you're Black Hispanic female, join all three. If you're a Black Hispanic female mechanical engineer, join all four. Because the more you join, the more network you do, the better your career will be in the future. Our job is to improve society by allowing Hispanics to be the best they can be in the field of STEM. And I'm so happy of doing this. And like I said at the introduction, this is one of my biggest accomplishments, the ability to help this organization. And this organization is the prognosis for the future is bright. It will continue to grow, along with our sister organizations. So this is a very critical thing that any inventor should join one of those organizations. My advice.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I want to invite our participants to submit questions in the chat. We do already have a question in the chat. I want to address this one to Harry. This is a tough question. If I could pick only three professionals to add to my network, what would their background be?
3 professionals to add to my network. I think I guess I would ask, is this person an inventor?
Yeah.
We should just go with that. I would stick to what I know, and that's the reason why we co-founded Humble Ventures, was to be at this intersection of investors, startups, and established enterprises. And by being at that intersection, we fill a void from all 3 different sides, and we feel like at the intersection, it's a value transfer and also knowledge transfer and different opportunities to convene different minds, perspectives, worldviews, and co-creation and collaboration together. That's what I would look at if I was an inventor, because they have all 3 things that you need. There's financial capital, there's human capital, there's social capital, there's political capital, and then you can pull those levers whenever need be if you can figure out a way to orchestrate how that ecosystem lives, breathes, and exists. So I think those 3 will be the best ones. For me, also, my family, and so like my wife, my kids, those are always great people to lean on. And it's, you need good partners at home too. I believe you could do it solo, but it really helps if there's someone that can keep you humble and but also give you love when you need it, because this journey is not easy. There are peaks, valleys. It's not linear. Like life, business is not linear, and so there's a lot of these, and you need help. You need people to be around you that care about you too.
Thank you very much for that. Nina, we're in the middle of a pandemic. How do we remain connected, and how do we establish new connections when we're socially distancing?
So one of the things I wanted to touch on with that question is I'm actually one of the chapter leads for Black Women Talk Tech, and that is an organization that focuses actually on tech founders as well as Black women that are in the tech ecosystem. And so a lot of our programming right now is virtually. So, pretty much we do a lot of virtual workshops to, virtual, we just did like a virtual co-working day. And it provides an opportunity for, pretty much Black women to come together that are either tech founders or that are also within the tech ecosystem to actually like engage. We may also have speakers and so forth. And then we also ask questions about what would, what type of programming would, someone would want to see. So during this time, I feel like, COVID has actually, again, been an advantage in some ways, because you are actually now able to meet a lot of different people that you may not have necessarily ran into at a conference. You do go to a conference, typically you go in, and because you're listening, there are times when you're able to speak with people, but typically you're sitting down and listening to your speakers. And so in our virtual I guess way of life at this point, I think that a lot of virtual workshops, virtual programming that is going on has been able to pretty much meet with talent that you would have never even thought about collaborating with, talking to different people in a group that you would have never, thought about actually meeting. So those are some of my, different, things that I would recommend. And I also, like I said, I see, due to the global pandemic, I actually see this as an advantage, particularly even with the USPTO putting on a virtual conference. A lot of people sometimes can't make it down to Alexandria, Virginia, unfortunately. So, having a virtual conference that is around people around the world can actually come to. I've, spoken with the World Intellectual Property Organization before, and they have a lot of students and they do a lot of different programming, from a worldly standpoint with IP. So with that being said, even some of those, people were able to actually, tune in to this conference that we are having today. So that's just an example.
Thank you very much. Miguel, I wondered if you could give some advice to people who don't know who to trust. So I imagine now with your current venture that you probably get to pick some of your clients. How do you know who to trust? What do you do to protect yourself?
Yeah, that's a good one. You have to create a non-disclosure agreement that you're going to use with your clients. You're going to create a contract. And you have to do two things. You have to assume good intentions with the person you're working with, but you have to assume that things are going to go sour and you're going to break up. So it's like a prenup. So your contract basically says, I trust you, but if something goes wrong, this is how we're going to figure out things. For example, my contract, if I'm working with a Procter & Gamble, with Unilever, something like that, they have 100,000 lawyers. I have me. So my contract says that if we have a dispute, we're going to go to arbitration. We're not going to go to the courts because I can't afford to go to the courts. And if the client says no, we have to go to courts, then I don't do the job. So, but I trust that they're good. They're well intended. But if they have some restrictions that, in case something goes wrong, will hurt me, I just don't do it. So my advice is Ronald Reagan said this, and I don't want to get into politics. He says trust but verify. That's absolutely my mantra. If I can take 30 seconds and add something else to Henry's answer, because I thought his answer was very good, I would say that the top 3 people you need to be 6. This is a kind of weird answer, but the 3 that Henry answered are your base. You can't get anywhere if you don't have any money for your enterprise. So by definition, this is your base. But if you get that, you're still missing 3 people that need to be your best friends: a manufacturing expert, a financial expert, and a marketing expert. You need to figure out how to make your invention, how to produce it. You need to figure out how to make money with it, not how to afford it. Henry's going to take care of that with his venture capitalists and his startups. But how are you going to make money out of that invention? I need to figure out how to sell it. If a great invention is going to stay in your garage, you got to get it out there. So.
Thank you very much for that, Kel. So I'd like to ask all of you for contact information for your various organizations. And I know that you all are so plugged into so many different things. It's okay if you want to give us more than one. Harry, let's start with you. How do we get in contact with your organization?
Yeah, very, very easy. So our website URL is humble.vc. So humble. And another great way is Twitter. So @Humble Ventures. You can get You can email our website too at start@humboldt.ac. And then you can find me on Twitter at Harry Alford 3, HARRYAOFORD, the number 3.
Thanks, Harry. Nina, how do we connect with you and your organization?
So, to connect with the Commercializer, one of the ways is through her website is www.janeagriffin.com. If you want to get directly in contact with me, you can actually go through Twitter. I'm at Tweet Nina Archie. I'm also at Facebook as the Innovator Connector, as well as on Instagram as at Innovator Connector. And also, if you wanted to reach out to Janea directly as well, you can go to Instagram, and she has an Instagram page as well that says at Janea Griffin, the Commercializer.
Thank you. Miguel?
So under SHPE, shpe.org is our website. My email is either chair@shpe.org or Miguel A, one word, at shpe.org. Under my company, it will be Alemany, Alemany, at Innomatrix, with 2 N's, LLC.com. And I'm also at Instagram as Alemany_SHPE. I'm on Twitter, Alemany_SHPE. And if you do Alemany, there's 3 other tweeters and 3 other, because I have different ventures, 3 other tweeters and 3 other names that you can find both in Instagram and Twitter. And in Facebook, Miguel Alemany. There's few of us. There's only one. I was the first one to get that name, so I'm the first one.
Love it.
Same for me.
Thank you. So Nina and Miguel, I know a little bit about how you guys got started. Harry, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to the place where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a twin brother, and we were raised by entrepreneurs, and they were launching their company, and they wanted to make it national. And so we moved from Indiana to Washington, D.C. When I was in 4th grade. And from then on, we've just had all these different ventures on our own, me and my twin brother, and we ended up going to the same college together, playing sports there. And then we were graduating college in the recession, and there was very few opportunities to get jobs. Hiring was paused. People were getting laid off. And so we thought, what else than start our own thing? What better time than now, better opportunity than now? And so we started launching our own companies. One of them was a coffee company, bringing in coffee from Arabica, AA coffee from Kenya. We had we soon realized we had no affinity for it. We didn't realize why we were actually doing it. We just thought it was a good idea, and we had no domain expertise in it. And so we realized real quick, let's pivot to something completely else, something that we actually have domain expertise in, something that we actually care about, something that we have that can't be easily bought or copied. And so we launched a sports e-commerce website. It started off as a blog with original content focused on culture, lifestyle, equipment, and apparel. And so talk about all the cool trends and custom gear that all these big brands were putting out that kids wanted to get information on. This is before Instagram, and this is just right around when Twitter was launching. And so people would usually go to centralized websites to get all their information. And so we started doing our own content. That after some time, we started to realize we were starting to get like 1 million page views, and we realized, hey, there's some eyeballs coming to our site, so let's figure out how to make money. And so we started monetizing it with ads. We started selling our own equipment and apparel through relationships with brick and mortar equipment stores, but also brands like Warrior, Brine, Nike. We did partnerships with Wheaties, all these really cool things. And then we also did offline events. So we did high school sports showcases at big college stadiums like Maryland, Towson, Georgetown, Navy. And then after about 4.5 or 5 years, we scaled it to a successful exit. And we used that that capital to go to business school. And so I used it to go to Babson College. I just Googled #1 entrepreneurship MBA, and that's the first thing that popped up, and I just applied. My brother went to Johns Hopkins. And since then, I wanted to get a better understanding for the other side of the table. And so I went to go work at an early stage venture capital fund, and I was working as an associate. I was putting on 5 investor pitch meetings a month in different markets like DC, Chicago, Austin, New York, Boston, and to share deal flow with all these investors. Then I also was helping to manage the pipeline, the due diligence process, and get all the deal docs signed. And so I had an unparalleled exposure to the world of venture, especially from the operations side. But at the same time, I started to realize that a lot of these founders that were falling through the cracks weren't matching the pattern recognition as my managing directors. They were white, cisgender males from New England that went to Harvard and then also Harvard Business School. And so I realized that I wanted to go to the fringes. I wanted to go to work with those entrepreneurs that are untapped, underserved, underestimated, because I believe that there's huge opportunity there and a lot of opportunity for outsized financial returns as well. And so that's when I co-founded Humble Ventures 5 years ago. And that's what brought me to where we are today.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on all your success.
Oh, thank you.
Miguel, you mentioned the importance of finding a manufacturing expert, and there's a question in the chat about how one would go about finding a manufacturing expert.
Well, there's 2 ways. One of them is, remember that I talked to you about networking. If you network, you're going to have one in your network. If you join one of those associations, you're going to have many in your network. But if you're not, there are contract manufacturers, there are companies whose sole job is to make your product. Now, they'll cost you money, but you can Google contract manufacturer, and there'll be many companies that you go to them and you say, I have this invention, and they'll help you figure out how to make it, and then they'll make it for you. My advice is go the cheap route, which is make sure you have a strong network. If you join SHEP, if you join Nestle or SWE or any of those, there will be manufacturing experts in there because by definition, this is where we all are. So go the cheap route first. But if not, you can get them online on the contract manufacturer. There are thousands of contract manufacturers. Some specialize in plastic things, some specialize in liquid things, and on. But there are many choices. Very easy to find.
And if I were to make a suggestion too, just from a group that we work with in our network, it's called Early Charm Ventures. They are based in Baltimore. They are fantastic people, and they help doctors, researchers, and scientists within universities commercialize their technology, their research, and their data to bring it to life. And so they have a wealth of connections to manufacturers, and they actually help build it with you too. So Early Charm Ventures is great.
Cool.
Thank you very much for that. So we're winding down our time together, and I've got a question that I've been dying to ask you. In these unusual times, I'm looking for really uplifting stories, uplifting inventor stories. And I'll just throw this out to everyone on the call. Obviously, in your work, you've come across some really uplifting stories of an inventor who was able to bring their product to the market successfully. Do you mind sharing one of those noteworthy stories with our audience?
I have a few. They're from my old job. But I'll give you one that was interesting. The guy who invented a fast absorbing diaper did it by mistake. He was doing a technical test and put the diaper backwards or upside down, and noticed that it worked better. And this is where inventors shine, because everybody else said, oh my God, you messed up the test. Throw out the test, do it again. He said, huh, why is this working better? Hold a second, what did I just do? And out of there came out a very powerful patent that made tremendous amount of money. So, and if you go into history, there's quite, I mean, the sticky notes was a mistake. Acrylic was a mistake. Formula left overnight by mistake. They didn't clean up the lab. When they came in the morning, it had hardened clear, and they couldn't figure out what it was. So there are quite a whole stories. My advice to inventors is, if something doesn't work out quite right, before you throw it out, figure out why. Because in the why may be an invention there somewhere.
Thanks, Miguel.
I love that. I love those. Nina, you can go.
So I would say right now we've been focusing a lot on particularly working with small business innovators that are interested in like solving problems that will help, due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. And so one of the things that I do know is that we were able to give information or give knowledge, or provide knowledge, I should say, in regards to the programming that is going on with the patent office, in regards to expediting that process. And I do know there is a small business innovator currently that has filed under the program that focuses on, technologies that are able to solve a COVID-19 issue, and actually has found a partnership as well in order to move that innovation forward.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, in conversations I've had recently, I'm involved with an angel group called the Players Impact, and it's a group of former and current professional athletes. I played professional lacrosse for a few years, and I've always had an interest in sports tech, given my sports e-commerce and other venture background. There was a company that I recently introduced. It's called RecoverX, and they bring in, it's a battery-powered knee brace that can also heat but also cool your knee, and very, very few other companies are able to do that. He has the IP on that, and I think he's going to be able to capture a lot of market share. It's called RecoverX. Also, another one is, and he is a Hispanic man, and this other founder is Dawn Myers, an African American woman. She designed something called The Most, which is a hair curler. I'm not proficient with it, obviously, and so I don't know how to describe it beyond like it's a hair curling iron or something. It's targeting Black and brown females, and it's an $87 billion industry. And so if she can get just 1% or even less than that, she's doing really well. And so she's getting off the ground, and those are the types of entrepreneurs that I love to work with, that are solving these big problems, but they might be overlooked compared to these corporations that are so far removed from the action and who they're trying to serve. And so these are the types of entrepreneurs I like to work with, and those are some inventions that I've seen recently.
Well, I have to say that I've been very inspired by having a role in this panel, and by meeting and talking and listening to each one of you. Makes me feel like I should have worked harder in the area of mathematics and science. But I really want to congratulate you on your success and say thank you for your willingness to participate in InventionCon. I hope that our audience has enjoyed this panel conversation as much as I have, and I know that our panel looks forward to interacting with those of you who reach out and in the method that they have described. So I guess I need to establish a Twitter contact for myself, but my contact information is Bismarck Myrick at USPTO.gov. And at this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Sean. Sean?
Thank you, Bismarck. And
Thank you,
this was
Bismarck.
great. And thank you all for being a part of InventionCon 20.